Hello everybody and welcome back to Safari Mack Explores North America. I'm Safari Mack, your guide and host, helping you make connections to the wild. Well, ladies and gentlemen, from me, Safari Mack, to all of you, Happy New Year and welcome to 2025. I tell you what, I sure missed you during my little personal break, but I'm glad to be back and I'm ready to get to work. So, with that said, if we're ready, for today's episode, we're going to leave the state of Alaska and travel back down to the lower 48 states and head to specifically the state of Illinois, where a YouTube subscriber recently sent me a request of a very special animal, and here I'm happy to fulfill that request. The red cardinal, otherwise known by the Latin name of Cardinalis cardinalis. So, while of course it's not the biggest, it is pretty flashy and it is somewhat very special, so I'm more than happy to do this bird for my subscriber, and that's why I encourage you all, if you have an animal that you want me to do in the future, or if you have a question about animals, please send me an email. It always helps me because I get to learn about other animals for myself as well. So let's grab our binoculars, our bird watching gear, as well as grab something warm because we're going to go bird watching out in the winter environment. Of course, though, let's start off the new year by hitting that like and subscribe button. Check out my Facebook page for content and conservation. And like I said, send me an email if you have an animal request for me to do in the future. But if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's get started with its family and evolution. Now, in terms of its order, in terms of birds altogether, despite their small size, this kind actually makes up more. This type, the passerine, or perching bird, actually makes up more than half of the bird types all over the world. The global bird types, they make up half. So these are perching birds, or passerines. And so far, we've identified 140 different families and 6,500 different species, all because of ornithology and fellow bird watchers. Now, so that's a pretty big deal, the fact that this small bird could cover half of the world. Now, in terms of where they originally started and when, it's very difficult to say because unfortunately their fossils don't seem to preserve well in the rock. But it's estimated that they may have appeared on Earth somewhere around 60 million to 50 million years ago in the southern hemisphere. And so today, though, the cardinal actually has two cousins. The desert cardinal, which is found in the southernmost part of the United States as well as parts of Mexico, and the vermilion cardinal of northern South America. Now, our red cardinal here in North America is really just called the northern cardinal. And so, with that said, just so you know, it's not officially red cardinal, it's northern cardinal. So, with that said, let's now look into the northern cardinal's habitat, lifestyle, and their behaviors during nesting season. So, this bird is not exactly picky about where they're going to go and where they're going to live. So, they're pretty adaptable from wood edges to marshy thickets, even hedgerows and fields. These birds are highly adaptable. In fact, believe it or not, despite the name northern cardinal, this bird wasn't always the most northern, somewhat of the northern birder in the United States as you see him today. No. In fact, once they were more of a southern bird type, but thanks to human activity, they've been able to successfully spread north. How? We'll talk about that with part 2 next week. So the northern cardinal's day-to-day life activities are mostly hopping around through trees, preening their feathers, singing, and feeding wherever they can find, as well as attracting females with their beautiful colorations and their crest feathers that can allow us to say maybe he's agitated, maybe he's interested in something. Now, usually these birds are known to kind of go in pairs, but during their off-breeding season, they are known to they'll group together in pretty good flocks and with other perching birds in finding food as well as gathering materials to build their nest. So now, let's get started with how they breed. So first, the males will find with a female, and it's usually just one pair with each other, and they'll stay together through the winter. But there is such a thing as divorce in birds that can take place around, at least in the spring, by around 20% or so. So a week before the female starts building the nest, she's going to visit as many different trees as possible to select which area is going to be the perfect spot to build the nest, with the male following close by. They call back and forth to each other, and as they carry nesting material to the desired spot. So soon enough, after a pregnancy, mom lays anywhere from 2 to 5 eggs at a time and will incubate them for at least 2 weeks, with the males doing most of the work of finding food and water to bring back to the hard-working mom. By the time they hatch, they start growing at a very fast rate. In fact, by the time they're around 9 to 11 days, they're already ready to leave. They're considered to be ready to leave the nest, and by 45 days later, they are already considered independent and ready to go. Now, if you want to attract cardinals in your backyard with birdhouses, that's okay, but I would like to give you a very special warning. Cardinals do not usually use the same nest twice. They don't. Why? Not entirely sure. Anyway, so like I said, if you want to do a birdhouse, that's okay, but don't take it down if you don't have a cardinal breeding in there again, because you know what? You can still help other birds, but we'll get into that next week as well. Let's get into their diet. And I tell you what, their diet is pretty high. They are very omnivorous, and they do eat a great number of seeds, which includes dogwood, wild grape, buckwheat, mulberries, even hackberries, many different kinds of vegetation, including grasses, different nuts, and of course corn. Cardinals also will eat many different bird seeds, where it's been observed that they seem to like black oil sunflower seeds for some reason. But they'll also eat different insects, including beetles, grasshoppers, butterflies, moths, crickets, cicadas, flies, you name it. You name it. Whatever they can find, they'll eat. Because I can tell you what, being a bird is actually very, very high maintenance. So a number of you, if you've ever had a pet bird, you know how much that they eat, right? You're probably thinking they're pigs, right? They are not. They actually have to keep eating so much and drinking so much because their own metabolism is actually what needs to be kept at a constant rate. They have to keep it in check. So, because if they don't, it can actually kill them. They can actually die from overheating themselves from their own body heats, because birds are just like mammals, meaning they are warm-blooded, meaning they constantly keep a same body temperature instead of it being influenced by the elements outside, like with reptiles or insects or even fish, right? So if they do not keep their metabolisms in check, they can actually kill themselves. Now, let's finish up today's part 1 episode with their influence in human culture. Of course, I'm sure a number of you have already put away your Christmas decorations, but you've probably noticed that the cardinal seems to always be associated with the season of Christmas, as well as different winter landscapes from postcards, pictures, and even folklore. Of course, they're also famous for being mascots for different sports, such as the St. Louis Cardinal Major League Baseball team, as well as Arizona's football team. But there's more. This bird actually is known to be the state bird for 7 different states, including Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia, and North Carolina. And of course, they are known in North Native American folklore for associating with love, good fortune, even being the bringer of rain, as well as the bringer of the sun. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's all the time I have for today's episode, so join me for part 2. But until then, this is Safari Mack. I'll see you all out there.